All right. So, welcome to Color Hacks, everyone. We have a special guest today coming from the Obama Youth Job Corps, and her name is Briana Ford. And of course, interviewing her will be the Color Hacks founder, Dooney Dio Coyote. I'm
Okay.
just helping out running the tours. So, let's go ahead and do some quick introductions. Dooney, who are you? What do you do?
As you guys already know, I'm the founder and organizer of Color Hacks. Currently a junior at Chicago Math and Science Academy, and Color Hacks has been a hell of a journey. It's been like I think it's like about half a year. Finally glad to launch it, like actually like see everything come into play, stuff like that. But yeah, that's all about me so far. Take it beyond. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
All right. And Briana, thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here. Super excited. Love what you're doing. My name is Briana Ford. Proud to be able to call Chicago home. And currently, I work with the Urban Alliance as a program coordinator. And it's all about working with high school seniors, helping them through that final year through a paid internship
Mm-hmm.
experience and just helping them think through, like, okay, what's next after high school?
Yeah,
And just really excited that we have this space and like what you're doing, Dooney. And I know that this is just the beginning.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. So like you talked about like like Chicago being your home and stuff. Like who would you describe yourself as a person? How would you describe yourself as a person?
Um, as a person, I'd say that like I'm a person who's been gifted with an ability to kind of see what can be. So the
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that brought me back home, or why I'm so excited to be here, is I grew up in the Inglewood community, and third generation to call that neighborhood home, and really rich experience. But honestly, some parts of growing up in that neighborhood where I just realized that like this is not quite like every other part of the city, and I see what it can be, and I think that's a big piece of like who I am. Like I can see what is to come, and I also think I'm a person who's been gifted with a high capacity to work hard. And I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy starting new things, which is probably also what excites me about what you're doing here.
Thank you, thank you. You talked about like what would you like? What's an advice you'd give someone? Because you talked about like improving society, like the society and like environment you're around, and like being hardworking. I know you're definitely not the only person in this situation. Like what's the best advice you can give to someone else like us in this situation?
I think if you have a hope and desire to, be a person of impact, and influence impact, I think it's one step at a time. And I would say also just a general piece of advice is just like being present and
Mm-hmm.
like being present for what the opportunity has to offer. And I think when you're present, you can just see things more clearly. And you might find solutions that way as opposed to being a little bit more just like all over the place. So being present and just focusing on those step ahead and doing it well with excellence, doing whatever the next step is.
Yeah, I do agree with like taking the next step. Like if you like one of my interviews with Scotty, I talked about like taking baby step and making sure like you don't jump to ahead. Like yeah, I do recommend you getting out your comfort zone, but I do recommend also taking the time, kind of like gauge who you are as a person, what you can do, and like based on my experience, I could say like there are a few things that like have given me like that type of mindset. But like from your end, what type of experiences and like what type of like barriers have kind of like brought you towards like that mindset and that advice you're giving to people?
Oh man. So first thing that comes to mind is not too long ago, I had the opportunity to like start a hair care startup
Yeah.
with a friend that I went to business school with. And just a really cool experience to get to the point where we're literally having people pay us to do this service. But it
Mm-hmm.
didn't start that way. It started with, can she and I make the commitment to meet every week for 1 hour a day? And can we do that consistently? And then we ended up doing that for several months, and 1 hour a day turned into multiple times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And that has really kind of encouraged me now, and been just a life experience that kind of taught me about the value and the power of just taking one step and like focusing on the next step. And for me, it was, can I just get this meeting, this 1 hour meeting?
No. Kind of like you like it's funny you talk about like someone talk about like doing hair projects and stuff. I actually have like a speaker coming tomorrow who I think I forgot the company it was, but she is part of a hair care company as well. But kind of like take us like take us back a little bit before you started like reaching out to this like company and stuff like that. I'm starting a company. Like, what is your education like? Look like undergrad, business school, and all that.
Yeah, so definitely got to give credit to CPS first. I'm a Jones College Prep alum, and then after that, I got a chance to go to the Mecca, Howard University in DC. Had an amazing time there, and then went and worked in hospitality for Marriott for doing group sales for a little bit of time, and got to the point where it's just like this is cool, but not quite it. Decided to go back to school, business school, and got my master's in business administration from Cornell. And while I was there, just kind of was like, oh, there are so many other avenues to pursue. Learned of investment banking, and that I'll add that to my education too, quite frankly, because it was so much to learn. But like, yeah, started working in investment banking after I graduated from Cornell.
Okay. Give us like, are you talking about like going to Howard and Cornell? Like, give us a little bit of, like experience. Like, give us a little walk through like what it was like and how it was like through like the whole course of that.
Yeah, Howard was amazing. Like, still to this day, like one of the best decisions I ever made. It was just right for me. So I met really cool people that I'm still connected with many years later that I call friend. And one thing about the Howard's culture is there's a kind of big emphasis on learning outside of the classroom. So like everybody is super involved in clubs, and that was a thing that I got into very early on and learned more about myself, my strengths, things I like, things that scared me that I still need to work on, and met a lot of just incredible people at Howard. And then as I think about Cornell, I would be honest that it was a bit of a culture shock, like living in Chicago, then moving to upstate New York, which is not New York City at all, but also a super amazing experience. Like an Ivy League school with tons of resources, some of the best professors with like practical experience who were there and available to like teach you the real deal of whatever career you want to do. So that's what I remember about Cornell. And then eventually I grew to love being in like a college town and being in an environment that was a little bit different from what Howard was like in DC and what growing up in Chicago felt like.
I do like relate like a lot with like the moving around and trying to like adapt with like society and stuff like that. Cause like prior to moving to Chicago, I used to live in Tennessee. Prior to living in Tennessee, I used to live in Maryland. So like those are huge society changes. So like
Yeah.
I wanna like you like kind of like walk us through is like in in the path of like the difference between going to Howard, which is an HBCU, and an Ivy League, which is Cornell.
Yeah, I would say Howard, like from day one, or even before I got there, going to as an HBCU, historically Black college university, as a Black woman, it felt like family, like day one. The people that were administrators, those are more like, oh, that's auntie so and so, and I'm still connected to them. And I needed that being 17, first time living on my own, and it meant the world to me in building my confidence and like stepping into who I am today. And then I would say Cornell was more of a space for me to lean into leadership. So like I went into it not necessarily thinking I would play the roles that I ended up playing, but for instance, I ended up being the president of the Black Graduate Business Association. I was in leadership for the Women's Management Council, and they were just like Cornell's business school also was a smaller campus. So like there were 270 people. And so there are more opportunities for you to not just participate, but actually lead. So that's kind of some of the, maybe not differences, but just highlights of those different experiences.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting for you going from Chicago to DC in terms of location of your school. Chicago to DC to Ithaca, which is a small town. Because Dooney's talking about Chicago trying to go to Stanford and Silicon Valley, and he doesn't really have a specific location after that yet. But I imagine it's kind of like you said, going to Howard. Here's the family. Going to Cornell and saying, okay, I want to lead. Dooney's already doing that and trying to do more of that in the future. And I think it's one of those things for Dooney, he's at the start of evolving into who he can become. Where for you, obviously you're still growing and evolving, but a lot of people, especially in Dooney's shoes at his age, they would say, whoa, that person is just full-fledged.
Yeah.
So what would you say were some things when you were in high school, 16, 17, 18, when you're at Jones, what are some things that kind of spurred you on to say, I'm not just going to go to college, I'm going to go to Howard, and then I'm going to go work at Marriott, and then I'm going to go to Cornell?
I think my environment played a big role into that. So even as I think back to how I learned of Howard, I have to credit like my church community taking us on HBCU college tours when I was in seventh grade. So the seed was planted very early, and I knew the standards were high to get into Howard, for example, and the other schools that were available too. So when I was in seventh and eighth grade, I was already thinking like, oh, I got to go to a certain high school. I need to, when I'm in this high school, I need to be involved because I had already had the opportunity to see what 5 years from now, I had a glimpse of it. I had already opportunity to
Yeah.
see what it could look like. And I knew that was just going to come. There was work, action required. So I think exposure and coming to events like this, even if you're not 100% sure of what your interests are, but just being open to like
Yeah.
learning, and you know what I mean, just like seeing what's out there,
Yeah.
because you never know if that's the thing that you like really lights you up. Like, oh, maybe I do want to be a coder, maybe I do want to go to Silicon Valley, or maybe I do want to go to Stanford. You just have to be open to that, though, to
Yeah.
begin with.
Yeah. I feel like I've kind of like hit points on that like a lot throughout my interviews. Like, and it's all hell to my brother, which is like I always call him the information sponge. But like, just always like try to hit as much pressure points as you can, because like you never know. Because like there's this quote that me and my friends always say to each other: you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you take
Right.
all the shots, the ones you hit, the ones you don't hit, if you don't hit it, you learn from it. If you do hit it, you progress and keep going and try to go to like the next level. And I feel like it's kind of like a big step that like people need to like realize, especially people like my age who are trying to like progress from like being always baby to like the point where like you're thrown out into the world and you have to figure yourself out and stuff like that. And like I know that probably has like a big impact on like your life and stuff like that. How would you like to impact others through your experiences and other stuff like that?
I feel like I'm the recipient of a lot of support in a lot of communities. So like my big thing right now is like, how do I share that? Like I feel like I'm overflowing with support. So my truest objective is to be a conduit. So like I'm learning these things.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate the opportunity to just kind of share a little bit tonight. I'm receiving all these things, and now like, how do I share it with other people? And my aim and hope is that they can go further and be greater and have even more impact in whatever field they want to have. And just being available is kind of a always a big point for me.
Yeah, so kind of like taking it back a bit and talking about like how you said you went from Chicago to Howard and then from Howard to Cornell. Like that's New York, right? So like, did you come
Mhm.
back to Chicago? Because like I kind of like want to understand like kind of like your journey between going from Chicago to Howard and then from Howard to Cornell and then coming back and then finding OIJC. So I kind of like want to know like your story behind getting in touch with OIJC and being a part of OIJC.
Yeah, so I hit a little bit of it was a little bit of a swerve or an unexpected turn there when I
Yeah.
got to Cornell. There's a ton of resources around investment banking. And I do have like a natural interest in finance, in particular, how you can use business to help develop communities. So while I was there, I made a decision that I was going to pursue investment banking, and
Mm-hmm.
that afforded me an opportunity to work at a bank in Atlanta. So right after Cornell, I lived in Atlanta for a couple of years. And similar to my experience at Marriott, I was kind of like, this is great. I know this is an
Yeah.
amazing opportunity, but it's not quite the work where I feel like this great alignment. And then I started the journey a little bit more abruptly. I decided to quit my job um, in June of 2019, and then was
Mm-hmm.
all in to find a way back to Chicago. And I luckily found Urban Alliance and what is OYJC.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think we definitely want to clarify to anyone watching OYJC, the Obama Youth Job Corps. It's a program that it's a collaboration between the Obama Foundation, obviously President Obama, and Urban
Yep.
Alliance, which is, I believe it's nationwide, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right. We have several regions. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm speaking from the Chicago region.
All right. Yeah, and the Obama Youth Job Corps, one of the really cool things is it's not saying, hey, we're just trying to help people get hired. It's saying,
Hmm.
hey, we want to reach you when you're in high school, teach you the stuff that you might not know about, the stuff that you might not ever have someone tell you. We're going to teach you that stuff so you can start working even before college, if you want, but obviously to give you the skills you need to say, okay, how do I research schools and apply and get in, get scholarships? Or if I decide to go somewhere else, or if I just want to go to work, I can do that. But at least to set you up for success in the real world, not just a specific thing, but just in general, success in the real world. You define it, you pursue it, will help you get there.
That's like spot on. We need to have you on the team. Like that was spot on for what we're trying to do. It is, these unique internship experiences, but we're thinking, well in advance. And a big piece, we're actually in the season of talking to students about high school, post high school planning, and yeah, it is wide. It's a wide range of what we're really trying to teach and impart with our students.
Well, I know Dooney and I would definitely be glad to help out in some
Yeah,
way.
of course, of course.
I'm
Yes,
looking
we
forward to
we I
time.
know we have some coders, some we need that support for sure. Got to connect you all.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess let's talk about the Obama Youth Job Corps a little more in depth. I know it's a pretty new program. Obviously, President Obama has not been out of office for that long, and a lot of presidential foundations. It does take a bit of time to spin up to identify what are their root causes that they want to target, and so now we have the Obama Youth Job Corps. Uh, a lot of it is saying, how do we raise the floor? And um, I know, it hasn't been around that long, but it's already had some impact. I guess since you've been with the organization, what would you say are some of the most impactful things that the OYJC has done?
Yeah, so I started with the organization at the top of 2020, and I have uniquely the opportunity to work with the alum of OYJC. And, really the stories that come to mind are just the individual successes and like to see the growth of a junior or sophomore who comes in and may self-identify as being shy, uncomfortable speaking in public, and then once they're now a senior interviewing for these internship positions, be at a point where they can say, well, actually, one of my strengths is communication. And I know I'm a confident speaker. And not even just stopping there, but get that validation from their mentors that, like, wow, this person is really confident. They present themselves in a really, really professional way. And we know that's going to last not just this senior year, but that's going to project into adulthood and really just carry them far as they develop their own career pathway. So that really is why I do the work. Those individual stories that we're hearing, and even the impact that they're having within their families and their communities. We know this has been a particularly challenging season recently, and um, we take it seriously to offer paid opportunities, so that very literal additional income that our students are bringing not only to their sales but sometimes to their families in a really kind of challenging season for our world.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing that it's easy for us, at least those who are better off to say, oh, just take any unpaid opportunity available to you, volunteer. And yes, that's a great way to get your foot into the door. But some of these kids, unfortunately, they can't do that. They need to make money right away. All the goodwill in the world doesn't always pay the gas bills, the light bills. So sometimes it does come to a head. It's like, okay, here's a better opportunity, but I'm just gonna have to stay at the gas station because I just need to make that 8.50 an hour, whatever the
Mhm.
rate is, so I can at least go home and say, hey mom, you know, we'll keep the lights on a couple more days. And
Yeah, it's a reality for sure.
yeah, yeah. And I think of course the wider urban alliance, being in multiple cities, um I think one of the really interesting things is when I saw on the website, it's also New York, DC. It's a lot of different cities, but obviously the mission holds in all these cities because they all have common problems. Problems that are it's endemic to poverty, first generation students, people from just broken backgrounds in general. Just there are problems that need to be solved in all these cities, and they're
Mhm.
problems that we see all the time, and in the US we still struggle with them. So I guess, what are your thoughts about the other cities, what Urban Alliance is doing elsewhere?
Yeah, it is one of the things that I was so happy to kind of learn that we were in so many different regions. And actually, because we're in this season of facilitating our programs remotely, one of the kind of cool things and interesting things that are coming up is now our students are from the Chicago region being able to interact with students from the DC region, from the Northern Virginia region, the Detroit region. And I think that's amazing. One of the things that I have learned now is just the power also about just being in community and like having that professional network. So they're on these conference calls and live streams with these amazing leaders of color, because we're doing this Leaders Like Me series. And they're seeing their peers and they're getting to know them and see the names. And I know I can see like we're just expanding their professional network. So in 5 years, Dooney is going to have the next tech unicorn, and I already know there's someone who's going to be the financier, and I have some folks in mind who will have the law degrees, and like I see the connections that are happening right now, and I think that is really kind of a game changer and a cool thing about Urban Alliance and like what they're doing specifically.
All
Looking
right.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dooney, we just gotta open up your email a little bit more if you have space left, right?
For real, for real.
So, kind of on the other side of the Obama Youth Job Corps, the Obama
Mhm.
Foundation, which I touched on a bit. President Obama's back home in Chicago and getting active, but kind of digging into the foundation itself. What has your experience been? Working with them, setting up the OYJC, saying, "All right, here's the Obama Youth Job Corps," and it's not just a name being lent from the president. It's he's actively here. These kids, they get to meet him sometimes. They get to talk to him, and he's just another guy from Chicago. He's just he's just someone coming by to these
Mhm.
kids. Beyond the fact that, wait, isn't that the president? Like he's in some context, he's just some guy coming by for them.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it just kind of it speaks to what I've observed. Like it speaks to the authenticity of the mission and just like the hopes for having impact in the city of Chicago, but obviously nationwide and globally. And it's I guess humbling to kind of witness that these people who have had these really prestigious titles and roles are also very in tune with the day-to-day lives of our high school students, and I just want to make sure that they are feeling supportive. And I know we have some interns working with the foundation now, and
Mhm.
they are consistently just like raving about their experience with their mentors and all the opportunities they're just listening in on about the work that is taking place in the local community, but abroad. So it's really been a cool relationship and a valued relationship.
That's great. I remember, I think it was my senior year in college. That was 08, 09. And at the time, I was already hearing about, um, it's like, oh, the new president just got elected. And apparently he spends every dinner with his family. I'm starting thinking,
Mm.
wait, how's that possible? Because he's on Air Force One. Sometimes he's flying around, and basically, he found ways, uh, you know, basically he would find ways to schedule that. He would be back in time for dinner, or he would bring them along if necessary, but basically, he would always schedule. There's at least 60 minutes uninterrupted, closed doors, just him, his wife, his daughters. No one else is in there. And then after 60 minutes, okay, now you can come in if necessary. But I just remember thinking, what? How?
Yeah, it's just like, how does that work? It's something to model ourselves after, I think, honestly, because those are family. If you've identified family and your relationships as your core value, it requires that degree, I think, of intentionality. It has to be that way. Otherwise, you might find yourself like completely consumed in a way that you could have never imagined. But it is like pretty remarkable to think someone who is of such high demand was able to maintain that. But maybe a little cute to everyone else. It's like, okay, if he's able to do it, then we too, like us too, in terms of whatever self-care looks like, or whatever family time, or whatever building relationships looks like we can do that too. We can make those decisions as well. And it to me, it feels like the way to go. Like, that's how you do things. You do it in a sustainable way, right? Because I like to think, like, I don't necessarily want to be the person who works so hard and looks up and I'm just burnt out and I'm like tapping myself out. I don't want that. I'd rather do it in the longevity. Like, longevity is the goal.
Yeah, I think it's impressive that when he was president, and even now, he's brought that human touch that you're talking about. The whole I'm gonna eat dinner with my wife and daughters, and it's now, hey, I'm gonna stop by and see the kids from the neighborhood, which, yes, they know who I am, but to them, I want to just be that guy from down the street helping them out. And
Right.
impressive that even now, when he just sit back and chill, he's saying, no, I want to continue helping others.
Mhm. I think we all have that degree of power and influence too. It looks different, but Dooney, for you, it could be a younger sibling or a younger relative that you just never know how you taking that time to recognize them, to see them. Like, how could that like light up their world, or maybe like change whatever they're feeling or thinking? And wow, yeah, I love that about our former president, President Obama, and just what he modeled for us.
Yeah. I feel like that is really important. Like, having that one person like influencing to kind of like make your day, and like kind of like someone for you to look up to and like emulate. So in terms of that, like, who exactly would you like to thank that you've known that you like to thank them about, like, the influence of having in your life, and like the just the influence of having a life, like shaping who you are as a person, what you become to be, and your growth in life, essentially.
For sure, mom and grandmother. My namesakes, Bernadine, Marie, and Marie. My grandmother Marie first, because just an endless amount of faith and belief in me. Like, just easy. There was no task or feat I could present, like, oh, I'm doing this, or Gurney, I'm a little scared about this. She's like, you got it, like, you could do it. And I think growing up, you need to hear that. Like, you need to hear someone who believes in you, even if you can't quite see it. And as an adult, I still kind of can lean on that, about how much belief that my grandmother had in me, and it pushes me forward. And then my mom, the investment, or let's just call it what it is, like the sacrifices she had to make so that I could have the opportunities, that had the sacrifices that I didn't even see and maybe will never even know, but I have a little bit of a sense, like, okay, you're doing this for me, and pushing aside maybe some of the things that she wanted, to make sure that I had everything that I need. And have to start with thanking them, for sure.
Yeah, I think that is important, having that mother figure to like make a sacrifice. I feel like that's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I guess, Brianna, it's been great having you here. We definitely don't want to keep the participants away from their projects for too long, but
Yes.
uh, we love to have any closing words from you. If there's anything we haven't touched on, anything you want to bring up real quick, is there anything you want to leave the students with?
Yeah, I just want to say again, like, how impressed and excited I am that this platform exists. And I just hope that everyone who is decided to engage today and participate, just lean in and like enjoy the moment, be open to learning a new thing, and be open to discovering a new thing about you, and just appreciate the moment for what it is. And I just thank you all for the opportunity to chat with you all tonight.
Wise words from a fellow Chicagoan.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us, Briana.
No problem. My pleasure.
Yeah, this is great. Anyone who's watching, we will leave some contact information in the video description below so you can reach out to the Obama Youth Job Corps, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a joint collaboration between the Obama Foundation and the Urban Alliance. And we would definitely love to help you connect with whoever you're looking for, mentors, programs, opportunities. If there's anything we can help with, feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, we hope you enjoy the rest of Color Hacks. We hope you enjoy the other live stream interviews we have coming up tomorrow, as well as all the others on the YouTube page. But for the most part, best of luck. Like Briana said, lean in, do your best, and we're excited to see what everyone accomplishes over the next several days.
Yeah, looking forward to it, yo.
All right.